election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
My senator and yours, Ron Johnson. See a big story about him at the Hill this week in Hill.com. Wisconsin Democrats and Republicans both want Ron to run, but for different reasons. I think some Democrats think, oh, he's just so crazy. Of course we'll beat him, which is what they said about Trump too. Miss that guy? Not much. Not much. He used to come around.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
Live concerts. Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Try to avoid the Deep South much as I can. Now, we skipped over, like Georgia, went straight to Miami Beach, Dom and I. And I've spent some time in Georgia. I got some family down in Georgia. But you won't find me hanging out in Georgia, not much. Brian Kemp is the current governor of Georgia. He's the Republican. If you'll recall, he narrowly beat Stacey Abrams. Well, Abrams is the presumptive Dem. And the Republicans, there's a little battle going on down in Georgia between Brian Kemp, the incumbent Republican that has been targeted over and over and over again by Donald Trump, and Trump's favored lazy, non-candidate, non-campaigning guy, David Perdue, who, lost his Senate seat through a lackluster special election. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, I've got some coverage there as well. But Fancy, real quick, I want to get to the callers. 844-967-2789. Brett calling in from Eureka, California. The very devilish 92.7 out there on the leftist coast. And 1480 AM, KGOE. Welcome, Brett.
Hi. Hey, Devils. How you doing today?
Good.
Good. Hey, listen, I want to say I was cracking up. I don't know exactly what that dog's name is, but when I heard you refer to the droopy dog and then you got Fancy Brian doing that imitation, that's pretty good stuff, because I myself, driving around Eureka, California, was making the oath, was doing the same imitation myself, so I was enjoying that quite a bit.
Well,
but I actually...
Fancy's a talented guy. That was a real time.
Thank you, Brett. It makes me happy.
There we go. I love it. You guys are great. Hey, one thing I had to point out, though, is I was listening to you say having, everybody go out and vote for Perdue. I got a problem with that, though, because I want to see as many Trump-supported people lose as quickly as possible and have something happen within the Republican Party, which is essentially a divorce from the Trumpers within the Republican Party.
Well,
let's fracture that party into two of people Liz Cheney back. There's people out there that are Cheney backers, lots of Republicans that go, we don't like, defund the police talk and stuff like that maybe, but they still can find, get behind the Republican moderate faction. And I think that weakens the Republican Party overall and has the potential for having more success this fall and maybe in 2024.
Brett, I absolutely want to see the end of the influence of Donald Trump. I think that even today's primary outcome will again weaken the former champ. But here's what I would say. Before the Republican Party completely divorces the old man, gets rid of their Cheeto Messiah, moves on to a cleaner, nicer fascist than Ron DeSantis. I'd really like to see a very sort of ugly Amber Heard, Johnny Depp style breakup between Trump and the Republican Party. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Little crapping on the bed.
Sure.
Some violence if necessary, some defamation going back and forth. I want to see a really ugly divorce.
I sort of feel you in that way for sure. I suspect that your wishes will be fulfilled because there's nothing pretty these days in the Republican Party. So if anything like that goes down, there will certainly be plenty of ugly moments for us all.
Brett, appreciate you listening out in Eureka. Well, how dare he say there's nothing much pretty about the Republican Party? Because I'm about to talk about Marjorie Three-Toe Green. Let me update the audience. Britt, thanks for listening. Let me update the audience. Firebrand, that's how they describe her at thehill.com. Firebrand, Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican from Georgia, heads to her first reelection primary on Tuesday in a good position to win the GOP nomination because she's got 3 toes for her seat, despite becoming perhaps the most controversial, bombastic, and criticized Republican in the House. Greene faces 5 GOP challengers in her primary, the best funded of which is political newcomer Jennifer Strahan, owner of a healthcare consulting business. Strahan has raised about $400,000 for her campaign, but also has the backing of outside PACs. Now, listen to the PAC supportive of this political newcomer Strahan, the Republican Jewish Coalition PAC. Now, why do you think they would support her against the Jewish space lasers lady, Marjorie Taylor Greene?
I don't know. Speculation.
You think they took it personal?
Possibly. I don't know if you can say those things and really just go, yeah, I don't understand why you're offended.
There's also value in electing women PAC, while the incumbent's a woman as well. They've spent $200,000 on this newcomer. We've heard a lot of talk, and our district has nothing to show for it. Strahan said in her debate earlier this month, we need a representative who works effectively with colleagues and navigates the legislative process to push Georgia priorities forward while protecting our constitutional freedoms. Now, Strahan's website highlights Russian state media using Greene's arguments against funding Ukraine's efforts to repel Russia's invasion, echoing Russia arguments when she worried that the U.S. funded equipment might be obtained by neo-Nazis in Ukraine. And Greene has been the subject of a constant stream of criticism and outrage since her election back in 2020. She was stripped of her committee assignment soon after being sworn into office over social media posts about conspiracy theories and liking a Facebook comment that called, for the assassination of Nancy Pelosi. She happened to be her boss? House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, Critty, but she yells at Democrats really well.
Fancy Brian, she was permanently banned from Twitter after she reportedly violated the platform's policy on misinformation about COVID-19, though her official congressional account, that remains active. Candidate Marjorie Taylor Greene faces her first reelected bid. We'll see how it goes. Again, there could be news or, more of the same. Marjorie, 3-tone Greene. Come back. More devil's advocates. I have 5 tones, cumulatively.
And I hope the Republicans are watching closely or it's going to be taken away from us.
I know you are, but what am I? 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 Infinity. Oh, you're my best friend.
Taking on Radio Talk Radio on both sides of the dial, from Cross Plains to Cottage Grove. Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Listen to your favorite political talkers no matter where you are. 92.7 FM in Madison and Eastern Dade County, 1580 AM Columbus, north of Madison, and for daytime east-west commutes on I-94, 101 FM in the Shaw, and 540 AM covering eastern Wisconsin all day and covering the Milwaukee Metro, the Wow Counties, Racine, and Kenosha 24/7. Download the free Devil Radio app for your smartphone and take both stations with you everywhere. No excuses, just listen.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Devil Radio 92.7, WTTN 1580 AM, and the Devil.
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished mixed. The Dow higher. Big losses for the tech-heavy NASDAQ. A hospital says 2 people are dead after shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. More and more people in Britain are relying on food banks.
For many struggling families, older people and the homeless, one food hub in East London has been a lifeline. Since the COVID-19 pandemic hit Britain, volunteers have been collecting surplus groceries from stores and distributing them to people who can't afford to buy food. While the virus threat has now faded, the need for food banks in Britain has soared. Skyrocketing energy and food bills are pushing millions into financial hardship. The cost of food and fuel has risen sharply too, with inflation reaching 9% in April, the highest in 40 years. Charles de Ledesma, London.
Confirmed cases of the coronavirus are surging in the southern tip of South America. I'm Ed Donahue.
Look, it's heartburn. It's going to try and ruin our vacation.
Don't worry. I packed Prilosec OTC. One pill in the morning prevents excess acid production that can cause frequent heartburn.
Nice. Aloha, heartburn.
Block heartburn from your summer bucket list with Prilosec OTC. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
Don't wait until you have heartburn to start Prilosec OTC. Kick your summer off right and look for Prilosec OTC at Walmart or walmart.com.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to get conversational in another language in as little as 3 weeks? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Babbel, language for life, celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. According to data from the University of Wisconsin system, spring enrollment has continued to decline at many of the state's 2-year campuses and some of the 4-year universities within the system. The enrollment decrease for all Wisconsin public colleges and universities was similar to the previous year for an average of 1.6% decline. On Monday, Governor Tony Evers announced the creation of the Meat and Poultry Supply Chain Resiliency Grant Program, which will allow Wisconsin meat processors to receive grant funding in order to improve or expand their facilities to be better prepared to address supply chain needs. The Evers administration is allocating $10 million of federal relief funds to the program that Republican lawmakers gutted from the governor's proposed budget last year. The highly contagious strain of avian flu has been identified in northern Wisconsin's Bayfield County, marking the 15th county the avian flu has been identified in, according to the Wisconsin Department for Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Think you know politics? Think again. Welcome to the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Georgia Peach Primary Tuesday edition. Going to have a little more fun with that theme, perhaps. Fancy Brian, there are other pressing headlines for you to get to during this big show. There is a GOP ballot fraud scandal going on in Michigan, and half the Republican gubernatorial field is out. They're being thrown off the ballot for submitting fraudulent signatures, like half the candidates. So we'll get to that story in just a bit. Also, right here in the great state of Wisconsin, a former false Trump elector, Bob Spindell. Well, he has been on the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Hell, when the case of the false Trump electors came before the Wisconsin Elections Commission, he didn't only not recuse, well, he basically gave himself a get out of jail free card. It's nice to be your own judge and jury. So anyways, that seemed troubling to, just a little crudy. But now he's in line to perhaps become the chairman of the Wisconsin Elections Commission. The very same guy that was a false Trump elector in 2020, he could be the new election chair. So that's what's happening in my backyard. I'm sure we'll get to that. Dom joins us in just a bit. My favorite congressman, Mark Pocan, joins tomorrow in the 4:00 hour. We'll talk some backyard politics, I suspect. And right here in the great state of Wisconsin, 40% of the assembled Republicans at the GOP convention this weekend thought we should decertify the last election. Try again, because Trump really won. It was rigged. Well, I throw out the numbers, the statistical analysis occasionally. I like the empiricals when I can. I got a new one for you. And here's my thought. Either 61% of Trump supporters, current Trump supporters, are willingly, blissfully ignorant, or 61% of Trump supporters are racist. Let me, why I say that. Let me tell you why. 6 in 10 Trump voters agree with the core tenet of the Great Replacement theory. New polling out. Let me share a little of it. More than 60% of Americans who voted for former President Donald Trump agree with the core tenet of the so-called Great Replacement theory, according to new polling, Yahoo News YouGov. The poll published on Tuesday, that's today, folks, found that 61% of Trump supporters agree with the statement that, and listen close, because you may not be personally a racist, but if you got a Trump voting friend or family member, here is what they probably believe. A group of people in this country are trying to replace native-born Americans with immigrants and people of color who share their political views. Now, 22% of Trump supporters surveyed said they disagreed with the conspiracy theory, and 16% of respondents who voted for Biden said they agree with the statement. However, 71% said otherwise. So apparently 16% of Democrats believe the Great Replacement theory also. Add that in with the 61% of Trump supporters, starts to get to be a big number. 73% of Trump supporters agreed with the statement that there is discrimination against white people in the U.S. 73%. Just a skosh under 3/4 of all Trump voters believe people are out to get Whitey. Whitey can't catch a break in this world. Poor Whitey. A little bit more here. 18% of Trump voters disagreed, compared with 20% of Biden supporters who agreed and 74% who disagreed. Again, there is still a 1 in 5 minority amongst the Democratic supportive that sort of share this view. A little bit more. 69% of respondents who voted for Trump said they are concerned U.S.-born citizens are losing economic, political, and cultural influence. Not because they're having financially disparate outcomes, not because the 1% aren't paying any taxes, but they're losing that economic, political, and cultural influence to immigrants. The other people, the brown people, the people from south of the border. You probably heard of them. They're on Fox News nearly all the time. Migrant caravans, you hear them talk.
I keep thinking they're going to show up like right at my front door at any given moment, but hasn't happened yet.
Well, Fancy Brian, 30%, approximately 1 in 3 of those who voted for Joe Biden agreed with that sentiment. And the new poll comes a week after the massacre at the Tops Friendly Markets location in Buffalo, which resulted in the deaths of 10 people and injuries to 3 other. Peyton Gendron. I hate to bring up the guy's name. I was sitting here for a minute like, do I even read the man's name? I guess I did. Peyton Gendron, an 18-year-old resident of Conklin, New York, who cited the Great Replacement theory in an online manifesto, has been charged in the shooting. Yeah, that's about the most sanitized way of putting it. 57% of Trump supporters polled said they believe Gendron is a racist. 57%. That's a slight majority of Trump supporters said, the guy espousing the Great Replacement theory and shooting 10 black people dead, he might be a racist. 57% said that. 86% of respondents who voted for Biden also thought, it's a good chance he's a racist. I'm just saying. 1,500, almost 1,600 Americans. The margin of error, about 2.8% on that polling. So, I mean, what's the takeaway here? What's the takeaway? Fancy Brand, let's hear.
Well, I just want to point out that whether he's a racist or not, you can actually ask him that question and interview him because he was taken alive.
Oh, you mean the alleged shooter from Conklin, New York, that guy?
Yeah, I just figured we can actually ask him what he felt about the situation and maybe see where he's coming from because, again, taken alive.
Are the numbers surprising? Do you think that, is it 61% of Republicans? I mean, do you think they are ignorant or do you think they're well aware that the Great Replacement theory is really just a novel take on white nationalism, on racism? What do you think they know they're racist, or do you think they're just being bamboozled by the Tucker rhymes with Tucker Carlson faction?
I think they're having a reasonable, in their minds, a reasonable thought that they don't know is the tip of the iceberg of white nationalism.
How do you explain, and I'm not saying it's yours to defend it, Fancy Brian, but how do you, the what was it, 73%? I don't want to get the numbers wrong. I should probably jump back in the prior article if I want to get them right. But this 73%, was it? What was the stat? Bear with me. Oh, whites are the ones being discriminated against. Now, where would you come to that conclusion? Where would you come up with that rationale or reason?
Going somewhere and having someone look at you wrong, or having someone maybe call you out for some behavior that you thought was completely acceptable before, but now you're being called out for it. And that makes people uncomfortable. And what we know about white people is that they get really upset when they are made to feel uncomfortable for any reason.
Hate when the whites feel, uncomfortable. They're not used to that. Do you think black people have gotten more used to that? Do you think they could share how uncomfortable that is and help some of their white friends get over it? Because nearly every black person I know claims at least one white friend.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of they've been telling us for a really long time, and they've been telling us generation after generation after generation, and none of us are listening. And if we listened, maybe you'd understand about how silly it sounds when you complain about, maybe somebody won't let me say the N-word when I used to, that type of stuff.
Well, let's tie it back to Georgia for just a minute. Senatorial candidate Herschel Walker, right? Black guy. He won the Heisman Trophy. He was a Georgia Bulldog. And he's very famous. Can't be much more famous than big time sports famous. All pro. I mean, he's probably a Hall of Famer. I guess I don't recall, but I suspect he's got a yellow jacket somewhere in the closet at home. And Herschel Walker got in a little argument with a reporter this week over what Donald Trump did or did not say. And, it's always been perplexing to me, a black Republican. But, perhaps Herschel Walker, by virtue of the fact that he's rich, maybe he's had a different black experience than most. And I know, he's been supportive of Trump in the past. But I'm going to have to maybe slide him, setting aside the Great Replacement theory that, perhaps Herschel Walker and people like him are trying to dilute the white electorate. Well, I guess that's more Tucker than Trump. but it's the Trump supportive that believe that. But here's what Herschel Walker never heard or doesn't believe or just wants to be blissfully ignorant of. Herschel Walker, the leading Republican Senate candidate in Georgia, insisted that former President Donald Trump has never said that the 2020 election was rigged or stolen. Never said it, according to Herschel Walker. In a video that was shared on Twitter this week, Walker speaks to a reporter who questions him about Trump's false election claims. I think reporters said that, Walker insists. I don't know whether President Trump ever said that because he never said that to me. Well, what about Brad Raffensperger, the state elections guy in Georgia, where you live, Herschel? The whole seeking of the 11,780 votes. Well, anyways, setting that aside, the reporter said he says it over and over. The reporter asking, let's call it a follow-up question. Walker replies, Herschel Walker, not Scotty Wanker in this case. Herschel Walker replied, No. I've never heard President Trump ever say that. How can you be a Trump acolyte and not know what's underlying the current affection for the Cheeto Messiah?
I don't even know what to say to that, man. The one thing I think about Herschel Walker is it reminds me of something that I heard about O.J. Simpson. When they were asking O.J. Simpson, why don't you stand up for black rights and stand up for the black movement and stuff? And someone said, aren't you black? And O.J. turned to them and said, I'm not black, I'm O.J. And to that thing, I think Herschel's doing the same thing. I'm not black, I'm Herschel Walker. But at the same time, this isn't a black or white issue. This is, the dude said that. No, he didn't. No, he literally said it. No. I don't know what else to tell you, Herschel.
I was, at least as an athlete, how do you not like Herschel Walker? He was a hell of a running back. Although he played for the Cowboys. That's one reason not to like him. Nearly as bad as being a Bearer, but perhaps a little worse. Who else I lost a little respect for today, Fancy Brian? Some news out there in the media world. Greta Van Susteren. Greta Van Susteren from Appleton, Wisconsin, has taken a new conservative media role, Newsmax. And to do so, Greta Van Susteren, who signed my cheesehead right there. I've got her autograph on my cheesehead. Being a good Wisconsin girl, she showed up, signed it. I forget if it's RNC, DNC, whatever. One of the big conventions. She was there. She signed my cheesehead. And now, by virtue of her new job at Newsmax, who's out on his ass? Sean Spicy Spicer. That's a shame. Come back. More Devil's Advocates.
This election was rigged. This election is a total fraud.
You are either lying or you're stupid. I'm stupid.
I have seen shit that'll turn you white.
You love them enough to do anything for them.
Mom, I need to be wiped. Coming.
Including checking nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Saturday workouts.
Hey, girl. Hey, what's up? You almost done? About 2 minutes or so. Meet you outside.
Then brunch.
See you there.
Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
It's scary. Maybe I'm coming a little bit more over the left, but...
Well, it's not left. It's good governance, Steve.
It's good to be exposed to different ideas, and I do appreciate that you do put that out there on the airways, because a lot of times where you just get a little soundbite of this or a little bit of that, and that's the end of it. You're to be commended for that.
Dave, I'm glad you finally come around to commending the greatest radio show ever, man.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi there, I'm Kirk Bankstad, and I own the Monaco Brewing Company. And I also have a super PAC. We make good trouble in the North Woods of Wisconsin. You can support our efforts at the MonacoBrewingCompany.com and buy our woke gear like t-shirts, hoodies, and trucker hats. Enter the code RADIO and get 10% off on your next purchase. A portion of all sales support the Monaco Brewing Company Super PAC, which is dark money meant for good. That's the MonacoBrewingCompany.com.
What is dedication?
I think a parent's job is to protect our children, but also prepare them for the world so they become good, kind human beings.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
Moving to the country, I'm gonna eat a lot of peaches. I'm moving to the country, I'm gonna eat me a lot of peaches.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It is a Peach State Primary Tuesday edition, so glad you're listening. Dominic's going to join us very, very soon. You can join us right now. You just got to dial 844-967-2789. Fancy Ryan, lots of stuff going on all around the country, including some breaking news. Greta Van Susteren taking a job at Newsweek. I don't know. You gotta shun her at this point, do you not? I mean, I've got to turn my back upon her. Shame, Greta.
Well, it's not exactly the most credible of organizations.
But I always saw her on sort of the straight end of the Fox News. What I mean, she did the show and whatever, but I didn't see her as sort of the partisan ideologue. She didn't go all Lou Dobbs out there or Maria Bartiromo. Yeah. Something happened with her. She used to be on MSNBC or CNBC financials, and now she's like drank all the Kool-Aid and looking for rigged elections out there.
Maybe they're using Greta as a shield to bring integrity to them, as if like, oh, but she has integrity. Now we have collectively more integrity.
I guess they would have more than they once had. That's still a pretty low bar.
I'm not looking forward to it either way.
Here's the flip side of the Trump supportive. The current president, Joe Biden, is going to sign a policing order on the second anniversary of George Floyd's death. That came, the news at least came today. So tomorrow, Biden is expected to sign an executive order on the 2-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd that intends to increase accountability in policing. A source familiar with the plans confirmed to The Hill. Now, I want to contrast, this thought, George Floyd, and what happened. Right-wing talk radio. I listened in, right-wing talk radio, the big guys, Clay and Buck, got the old former Rush Limbaugh slot. Well, they said, oh, of course it was terrible what happened to George Floyd. And, the specific cop, Derek Chauvin, well, he's a bad guy, bad apple. But you can't blame all cops. And that's what the Democrats did. And now crime's out of control. Well, that's what they claim, Fancy Brian. And if you look at the murder rates in a number of big cities, including Milwaukee, where you can hear us right now, well, there's certainly a spike. I can't tell you precisely what it's attributable to, but I mean, am I to believe that if cops can't kneel on a guy's neck for 9 minutes and kill him, that then they can't enforce the laws? You need that at your disposal. The kneel of death. If I can't have that, then how am I going to ever keep them apart? It's just anarchy on the streets. Anyways, Biden on Wednesday is expected to sign an executive order on the 2-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd. The executive order would establish a national database of officers who've been fired for misconduct and require federal agencies to update their policies on the use of force, the source said. Now, the New York Times, which first reported on the order, said the measure will also restrict the transfer of most military equipment to local law enforcement agencies. Once upon a time, I had the top cop here in Madison, Chief Koval. And I like Chief Koval, but he was here and he was bragging about this new piece of military armament they had put into use here for the local police department. I said, Chief, you got a new tank. I like your new tank. And he said, no, this is just like an RV on steroids, like an armor-plated RV on steroids, something like that. But it has bothered me quite a bit because when you got these weapons at your disposal, somebody wants to use them. Somebody gets a little trigger happy, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, how do those things get used to keep the peace?
Because in case there's a George Floyd protest that breaks out, you got your tank to roll out.
It's fear. The thing uses fear to control people.
Well, fear sometimes works, or at least that's the thought. Now, the signing, the executive order, will come 2 years to the day after Floyd was killed, after former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin pinned him to the street and kneeled on his neck. Floyd's killing set off a wave of protest across the country against police brutality and racial injustice. And it effectively sort of corresponded with the Tucker Carlson Great Replacement Theory campaign that he's been working about a year on the national TV, on the cable news. A little bit more. The executive order has been in the works for months. It has was reportedly reworked after police groups pushed back against the language and the reforms included in a January version. Now, civil rights leaders have long urged Biden to sign an executive order while cautioning the burden is on Congress to enact permanent changes. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which would overhaul qualified immunity and outlaw no-knock warrants and chokeholds at the federal level, will it pass the House? Shocker, fans, Brian, stalled in the Senate. The more deliberative body, the filibuster body, tomorrow will mark 2 years since George Floyd's cruel murder at the hands of police officers. We know full well that an executive order cannot address America's policing crisis the same way Congress has the ability to, but we've got to do everything we can, according to NAACP President Derek Johnson in his statement. There's no better way to honor George Floyd's legacy than for President Biden to take action by signing a police reform executive order. Well, there's a few more things he could do, but, at least it's a step of acknowledgement. Now, my understanding also, part of this order, federal authorities would be mandated to stop incidents of police brutality. So if you got ATF, if you've got, the FBI sitting there and you got a cop kneeling on a guy's neck, the federal authority would be obligated under this executive order, my understanding, to take some proactive action and stop the police brutality. But of course, an executive order, Trump wins re-election, or, maybe a Ron DeSantis sort. Well, hell, man, he's got his own cops down in Florida. They got the election cops. I mean, how crazy is that? The governor of the state of Florida has his own election cops. You talk about fear. What do you think the election cops are for? You think they're to uphold clean and fair elections? Or, put the fear of God in fear of Ron DeSantis. Come back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates. Dominic joining next. You can join us. 844-967-2789. Evan Kung Fu fighting in the Madison World Headquarters, lightly screening your calls.
Peaches, peaches for free. Millions of peaches, peaches for me. Millions of peaches, peaches for free.
Well, first of all, there is no police brutality in America. We ended that back in the 60s.
Summer is now, and it's not too late to make your backyard an oasis. Go Landscaping can create a sanctuary from the world right in your backyard. Stone fireplaces, stone patio, outdoor kitchens. Stone is their passion. Hardworking and professional, call Cody. Their dry stone certified mason will help you design and realize your dream this summer. Call Go Landscaping today at 608-807-9245. Stop dreaming and go love your yard.
At Chad's Design Build, we care deeply about the quality of the services that we provide to our clients. An excellent remodeling experience requires communication, honesty, accuracy, and a detailed plan, all of which helps to create a satisfied client. And these commitments spell our name. To learn more about the Chad's remodeling experience, go to chadsdesignbuild.com. Building a better world, one remodeled home at a time, and celebrating 30 years of excellence.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. The latest school shooting in the United States was at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, outside of San Antonio. Texas Governor Greg Abbott identified the shooter as Salvatore Ramos, an 18-year-old from Uvalde.
He shot and killed horrifically, incomprehensibly, 14 students and killed a teacher.
As for the shooter,
he himself is deceased and is believed that responding officers killed him.
The district in Uvalde says the city's civic center is being used as a reunification center. Votes are being counted in Georgia for primaries for governor, Senate, and other races. It's the first election since changes were made by Republicans following Donald Trump's loss in the 2020 presidential election. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger says it's a record turnout so far.
Just a few issues. They obviously had those 2 precincts, and we are monitoring that. We have a full-time investigator at Fulton County and also in a couple other counties just to make sure we can respond to any situations that could arise and make sure we respond quickly.
In all, 5 states are voting: Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Texas, and Minnesota. With Congress deadlocked over how to address racism and excessive use of force, sources tell the Associated Press President Biden plans to sign an executive order tomorrow on policing, the second anniversary of George Floyd's death in Minnesota. The U.S. will close the last avenue for Russia to pay back its billions in debt to international investors tomorrow, making a Russian default on its debts for the first time since the Bolshevik Revolution, all but inevitable. A mixed showing on Wall Street today. The Dow finished higher, but big losses for the tech-heavy NASDAQ composite. This is AP News.
Look, it's heartburn. It's going to try and ruin our vacation.
Don't worry. I packed Prilosec OTC. One pill in the morning prevents excess acid production that can cause frequent heartburn.
Nice. Aloha, heartburn.
Block heartburn from your summer bucket list with Prilosec OTC. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate release.
Don't wait until you have heartburn to start Prilosec OTC. Kick your summer off right and look for Prilosec OTC at Walmart or Walmart.com.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to get conversational in another language in as little as 3 weeks? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Babbel, language for life, celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
In time, you will know the true power of Devil Radio 92.7. It is your destiny.
Listen to Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM, Madison's home for progressive news talk radio. Tune in for the political party that is the Devil's Advocates Radio Show every day from 3 to 6 p.m. Join Native Roots Radio from 6 to 7 p.m. for updates about Native news, culture, and activism. The 7 o'clock hour is for local programming, including the Paul Revere Show on Mondays, Busted Pencils on Tuesdays, and the Up North Podcast on Wednesdays.
Listen to your favorite political talkers no matter where you are. 92.7 FM in Madison and Eastern Dade County, 1580 AM Columbus, north of Madison, and for daytime east-west commutes on I-94, 101 FM in the Shaw, and 540 AM covering eastern Wisconsin all day and covering the Milwaukee Metro, the Wild Counties, Racine, and Kenosha 24/7. Download the free Devil Radio app for your smartphone and take both stations with you everywhere. No excuses, just listen.
President
Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Devil Radio, your fix for progressive talk from Middleton to Monona, always streaming at darnwi.com.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Monday, Governor Tony Evers announced an additional $2.2 million of aid being sent to the city of Milwaukee to assist the Milwaukee Police Department with immediate resources to address crime and work to prevent violence. In all, the Democratic governor has allocated more than $100 million to assist local and tribal law enforcement agencies, alleviate pandemic-related backlogs of criminal cases, support victims of crime, and various other violence prevention efforts. Yesterday, a Dane County jury found Corrie Sanford guilty on 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide for the shooting of a UW health doctor and her husband that took place near the UW Arboretum in 2020. Forecasts show mostly cloudy skies with winds up to 20 miles per hour and an expected high of 67 degrees. There's a 50% chance of occasional rain showers into the evening with an overnight low of 53 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Tuesday happy hour. I'm happy because there's Dominic, there's Fancy Brian, there's Evan in the world headquarters, lightly screening the calls. How you doing, little buddy?
Crudy, been better, man. Great to be with you, Evan, Fancy Brian, our fair audience. It is happy hour, but we do not have happy breaking news. Another day in America, another mass shooting as being reported from Houston, ABC affiliate ABC13.com. 14 students and a teacher are dead after a shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, according to Governor Greg Abbott. The 18-year-old suspect, a student at the high school, is also dead. He shot and killed horrifically and incomprehensibly 14 students and killed a teacher, Abbott said during an unrelated press briefing. The suspect also allegedly shot his grandmother before entering the school and again opening fire, Abbott said. He did not say anything further about her condition. Abbott said the shooter had a handgun and also possibly a rifle. The local Memorial Hospital said 15 students were being treated in the hospital's emergency department in wake of the incident. 2 patients were transferred to San Antonio for treatment, while a third was pending transfer. A 45-year-old was also hospitalized after getting grazed by a bullet. The University Health in San Antonio said it had 2 patients from the shooting incidents, a child and an adult. The hospital said the adult, a 66-year-old woman, is in critical condition. Did not have an update yet on the condition of the child.
Elementary school age children targeted in this newest mass shooting 85 miles west of San Antonio, my understanding, reminds me a little bit of Sandy Hook. And I will just await the NRA and the other gun manufacturing organizations to, issues the appropriate tweets of thoughts and prayers. And of course, they'll be parroted by the entire Republican Party, because That kid, he must have been mentally ill. It's mentally ill people that kill people, never the guns.
Never the gun.
Can't talk about it.
Mentally
Too close,
ill
too
person
raw.
with a straw would probably not have murdered 15 people and then killed himself.
Can't talk about that. It's a sad time. Thoughts and prayers.
Not the right time. Just another day in America, baby.
Let's turn our attention, Dom, sadly, to other events. I brought this up prior. Massive signature fraud scandal upends Michigan GOP gubernatorial race.
Come on, Michigan. That's my home state.
Rigged ballots in Michigan, Dom?
I mean,
rigged, I tell you.
There's a reason that they're all mad about, fraud, because apparently they're the ones that commit quite a bit of it.
Well, Dominic, I quote the Michigan Advance. I suspect this a lot like the Wisconsin Examiner. Lena Stebbins reporting, the State Bureau of Elections has recommended that 5 of the 10 Republican candidates hoping to oust Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer should be kicked off the ballot prior to the August 2nd primary, Dominic, due to tens of thousands of forged signatures.
Tens of thousands?
I'd call that a rigged ballot, Tom. In total, election staff identified 36 individual petition circulators who submitted fraudulent petition sheets with invalid signatures in at least 10 petition drives, submitting at least 68,000 invalid signatures in total. Now, the petition drives included those for governor, circuit judge, and district judge. Staff are working to refer incidents of apparent fraud to law enforcement for criminal investigation. Law enforcement, Dom. This comes after many Republicans, including many in the GOP gubernatorial field, having questioned whether former President Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, despite President Joe Biden winning the state of Michigan by 154,000 votes. And I realize as a population, Michigan has a larger population than the state of Wisconsin. I mean, hell, Biden only won by 21,000 votes here, but 154,000, that ain't really even that
That's
close.
not real close. No, man.
I mean, Jill Karofsky beat Dan Kelly in a Supreme Court race by 163,000 votes, and we called it a blowout. I'm just saying. Anyways, Dom, a little bit more here. The Bureau's unprecedented report Monday night has already prompted at least one candidate, Michigan State Police Captain Michael Brown, to formally withdraw from the race. Here's a quote from his campaign. It appears that after my campaign signature gathering was complete, individuals independently contracted for a portion of our signature gathering and validation, jumped onto other campaigns and went on a money grab. I cannot and will not be associated with this activity. I will exit the race for Michigan governor with my integrity and this principle intact. Well, you weren't going to qualify for the ballot, so that's not exactly a brave move.
And maybe perhaps you should question some of your independent contractors who you're paying to go out and do this. I mean, doesn't the buck stop with you, sir?
Now, it was the Democratic Party and a super PAC supporting right-wing media personality Tudor Dixon that apparently challenged the ballot signatures, Tom. And the Michigan Board of State Canvassers, which is evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans, is set to meet and take up the recommendations Thursday morning in what is expected to be a contentious meeting in Lansing. Dominic, a Livingston County GOP debate earlier this month featured 8 of the 10 candidates, with Craig and Brandenburg not attending. During a lightning round, hopefuls were asked if they believe Donald Trump legitimately won the 2020 election. Dixon, Kelly, Johnson, Rebant, and Soldano all said that he did. Believe that Donald Trump legitimately won the 2020 election. That's 5 of the 8 that were in attendance that said Trump won. Now, Renicky and Johnson declined to answer with the simple yes or no, eliciting boos from the audience. Brown and Barkley directly said he did not win the election. The filing deadline for signatures was April 19th. Can't clean this mess up now, Dom. The Bureau said staff began to review nominating petitions at the end of March and discovered early on that a large number of the petition sheets submitted by certain circulators, they appeared fraudulent, and some consisted entirely of forged or otherwise invalid signatures.
Crudy, because of this, the Bureau took on a more intensive process of review and released a supplemental report on the fraudulent activity Monday night. Previously, signatures of dubious authenticity had been scattered throughout petitions in a relatively small number. The Bureau was unaware of other election cycle in which this many circulators submitted such a substantial volume of fraudulent petition sheets consisting of invalid signatures, nor an instance in which it affected as many candidate petitions as at present, the Bureau report reads. Michigan Democratic Party Chair Lavora Barnes issued a statement Tuesday morning calling for all candidates whose campaigns were touched by the fraud, including Dixon, to drop out. Quote, their refusal to adhere to Michigan election law is disqualifying. If they refuse to withdraw, the Board of Canvassers should refuse to certify the candidates. Michigan families deserve better than an irresponsible, radical slate of candidates who have repeatedly refused accountability for their lawless campaigns. The Bureau noted in the report that there is currently no reason to believe that any of the candidates nor campaigns were aware of the fraudulent activity. It went on to recommend that candidates and campaigns implement a quality control process prior to filing petitions. A number of nominations for circuit judge, district judges, and congressional races were also deemed insufficient. Wow, Michigan.
Insufficient. Preposterously insufficient. And chock full of fraudulent signatures, Tom. Talking about your rigged elections. Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, 844-967-2789. Dom, before we move our attention back to the, let's call him the fraudulent Trump elector from right here in the great state of Wisconsin, Bob Spindell, I want to talk more broadly about this effort nationwide. Election deniers want to control the 2024 election, and they're getting closer. I found this reporting over at CNN Politics, and we'll bring it back around to our home state. Proponents of Donald Trump's discredited lie, discredited, the hell you say, discredited lie about rampant fraud in 2020 are running for positions of authority over election administration in virtually every state expected to decide the 2024 presidential. An explosive trend dramatically underscored by Tuesday's bitterly contested Georgia Republican primary. I don't know if you know this, Don, but little Peach State primary going on.
Yeah, election day.
Going on down in Georgia today. In Georgia, Trump may achieve at best only mixed results Tuesday with the slate of election denier candidates he endorsed in primaries against Republicans, led by Governor Brian Kemp and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, who certified President Joe Biden's narrow 2020 win in the state.
How dare he?
I know. I played sound to Trump a little bit earlier. Still trash talking Brian Kemp on election day, and he's the Republican incumbent. But even losses for some of Trump's candidates in Georgia, and that seems much more likely in the governor than the Secretary of State race, won't reverse the larger trend. Republicans across the country are steadily nominating candidates echoing Trump's falsehoods about the 2020 election and contest for governor, attorney general, Secretary of State, and right here in the great state of Wisconsin, Dom, chairman of the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Bob Spindell, the fraudulent Trump elector, sees himself as the designated next chairman of the Wisconsin Elections Commission.
Hell no.
You and what army are going to stop him, Dom?
He needs a Dem vote. He's not going to get one.
You don't know. You know, custom says.
I know.
Custom says you support the
precedent,
other
custom,
party's choice.
tradition. Really, we're talking about that now? All that's out the window. Have you not been around the last couple of years?
Did you say tradition?
Tradition.
Sedition. More Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back.
He wrote his name so bigly.
I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Did you?
I want to get back to being in my community group.
I want to continue having a soccer season.
So I can throw parties again.
so I can go to her parties.
It'd really be nice to dine in instead of getting delivery for a change.
So I can feel safe and protected for myself and my students.
We each have our own reason for why we're getting vaccinated against COVID-19. What will yours be? Visit getvaccineanswers.org for information on the COVID-19 vaccines. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
You recall the Capitol insurrection? A post ABC News poll showed 54% said Trump should be criminally charged for inciting the riot. That's like a litany of criminal allegations against the former president. You can say it's all partisanship and a witch hunt, but there wasn't one credible accusation against Obama during his entire 8-year term. So how Republicans just ignore all the evidence? I mean, he was perpetrating a coup on multiple levels.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
When they go low, we get high. The Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. You can always join us with your take at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, talking about more efforts at ballot fraud, want to draw your attention and that of the audience to a little story I found at the Raw story. Florida ghost candidate who was backed by GOP consultant is arrested and charged. Apparently that was a little ballot fraud, Dom. One of 3 ghost candidates who ran as independents for the Florida Senate in 2020 has been arrested on several criminal charges, the Orlando Sentinel reports. Also charged alongside ghost candidate Justine Iannati are James Eric Fogelsong and Benjamin Paris. Fogelsong is a political consultant involved in launching of Iannati's campaign and Paris's Seminole County's Republican Party chair. You know, it's strange that all these voter fraud, ballot fraud, why is it always Republicans? I mean, just the vast number of them, you know.
It certainly seems to be a majority, a super majority, seemingly, are Republicans. I don't know, man. I mean, why go through such an effort? You know, I mean, it just, you run. If you win, you win. If you don't, you know, try better next time. Why do you to what end?
What if you are just trying to confuse the electorate? What if you're
that's exactly what they're trying.
A ghost participant on the ballot who just, accepts all your money from, let's say, one contributor. One person just writes you one big check. You don't disclose. You just run as an independent. Well, here's what happens. Apparently, Dom, Iannati is facing 6 charges, which include the commission of a false or fraudulent act, accepting excessive contributions from a single contributor, perjury, false reporting, and accepting a contribution in the name of another. Now, Fogelsong faces 4 charges, which include making 2 or more contributions through or in the name of another, a little straw purchase, Dom, the commission of a false or fraudulent act. Well, how's that any different than Bob Spindell here in the state of Wisconsin?
Great point, Michael.
And the unlawful use of a communications device, excessive contributions, and false reporting. Paris faces a single count of making a contribution through or in the name of another. And here's a quick quote, Dom, to put a bow on it. Some MPA candidates, commonly referred to as ghost candidates, have been used by political parties as a way to close elections or siphon off votes. See Kanye West right here in the great state of Wisconsin, right? That was the effort with Kanye. The Kanye candidacy was to confuse black voters.
But Kanye West has a very unique name, right? I mean, my understanding is these people have similar names to the actual, I guess, real quote unquote candidates.
Yeah, but why, if you'll recall, when Kanye West made the efforts to qualify for the ballot here in the state of Wisconsin, he used Republican consultants who missed the time deadline, if I recall correctly, right? They didn't meet the specifications of voting law here in the state of Wisconsin. And the uproar was, well, these are paid consultants. They should know better. And who paid them? The Republican Party, to help siphon off votes here in the presidential from Joe Biden. Because when the race comes down to 21,000 votes down, you confuse a few people. You get a few Kanye fans to come out and vote, not for Joe, but for Yeezy.
Kanye?
A little bit more here, Dom, talking about the ghost people, the ghost candidates down in Florida. Well, not illegal per se. Many have questioned the ethics of the practice, according to State Attorney Phil Archer. However, when that candidate and the partisan political operatives involved violate election finance laws by illegally funding those races and filing false reports, it is the responsibility of government to act. And act they did. One more. Ayanati was new to politics when she ran as an independent in Senate District 9. As the Sentinel report points out, she spent several weeks in Sweden and refused to speak to reporters after qualifying to run. She later moved to Sweden after the election. Well, can't extradite her from Sweden, can you? A little bit more. Her candidacy and those of two South Florida candidates who also did no campaigning was promoted by a pair of entities chaired by then GOP political consultant Alex Alvarado, with ads Miami prosecutors have said were tailored to siphon off votes from Democrats in each race. Ghost candidates. Whatever you got to do. All's fair in love and politics. So anyways, that is what's been happening in Florida. And back to this prior reporting at CNN Politics, if I can, put a bow on it, Dom, sort of make it a national issue and a local issue. Republican candidates echoing Trump's disproven claims of fraud about the 2020 election have already been nominated or are seeking nominations for positions with control over election machinery in all 5 of the states that flipped from supporting Trump in 2016 to Biden in 2020. Think Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Oh, yeah, and Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
Republican candidates touting similar arguments are also in strong positions to win the GOP nominations for key elections positions in states just outside that inner circle of the most competitive contest, including Secretary of State races in Nevada, Colorado, and where they can hear us in Minnesota. And even as these candidates are advancing, Republican legislators are moving a flurry of bills to change the rules for both voter access and election administration. Down one track, as has been widely reported, 19 Republican-controlled state-approved bills in 2021 make it more difficult to vote. Less widely discussed has been the second track. An exhaustive study released last week by 3 election reform groups found that 13 states have already approved laws allowing for partisan control of election administration. Now we're getting to the gist of it, Don. That's
this is
root.
An all-out effort by the Republicans to try to control the system.
Well, that's how it's you win elections with a minority of the voters.
Right.
Come back. We're going to turn to Bob Spindell in the great state of Wisconsin next.
Hey, you want to get high, man?
Are you the gatekeeper?
It kind of grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
I am the keymaster.
So thank you. Hear history as it happens, only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
This is Pat Slattery of Slattery's Automotive Service in Verona. Established in 1973, I've been servicing and repairing cars in the Madison community for nearly 50 years. You can trust me to tell you what your car really needs and fix it right the first time. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to schedule an appointment today. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
Brian, patio season is here.
What the heck is patio season?
You know, enjoying a nice beverage outside, taking in the warmer weather. Patio season.
Oh, like when we're down at Hawks and State Street. I like saying hello to everyone.
Yeah, Hawks is one of my favorite spots for patio season when downtown. Right on State Street, great food.
And drinks. Let's go. It's patio season.
Why are you running?
We got to get a good table.
They're all good tables.
Suck down drinks so we don't have to suck. Okay.
Texas school shooting. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says more than a dozen children have been killed in an elementary school shooting in Uvalde, Texas.
He shot and killed horrifically, incomprehensibly, 14 students and killed a teacher.
That sound from KSAT television. The shooting happened at Robb Elementary School. The governor says police shot and killed the suspected gunman. Primaries are being held in Texas, 3 other southern states, and Minnesota. The Georgia Republican race drawing the attention of top members of the party, including former President Donald Trump, endorsing one candidate, David Perdue, while his former Vice President Mike Pence backs the incumbent, Brian Kemp. The winner will face Democrat Stacey Abrams in November. In Texas, anti-abortion Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar is in a runoff against Jessica Cisneros, who supports abortion rights. I'm Tim McGuire.
Look, it's heartburn. It's gonna try and ruin our vacation.
Don't worry. I packed Prilosec OTC. One pill in the morning prevents excess acid production that can cause frequent heartburn.
Nice. Aloha, heartburn.
Block heartburn from your summer bucket list with Prilosec OTC. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
Don't wait until you have heartburn to start Prilosec OTC. Kick your summer off right and look for Prilosec OTC at Walmart or walmart.com.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to get conversational in another language in as little as 3 weeks? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Babbel, language for life, celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
For Double Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Monday, more than 150 members and supporters of Madison Teachers Incorporated, the local teachers union, rallied outside the Madison Metropolitan School District's administrative building ahead of this month's regular school board meeting, calling on the district to increase the base wages of staff by 4.7% and increase hourly staff's pay by $5 an hour. The 4.7% increase is in line with what a number of school districts in Dane County and around Wisconsin have increased wages by for the upcoming year due to inflation. Federal campaign finance records show 3 billionaires with Wisconsin ties, Diane Hendricks and Dick and Liz Uline, have donated $3.5 million to a Texas-based super PAC that is working to support the re-election of Senator Ron Johnson. Yesterday afternoon, employees at Raven Software, a Middleton-based video game developer, won their vote to unionize as the Game Workers Alliance, a first for the video game industry. You're listening to Double Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Tuesday edition. We welcome back my Congressman, Mark Pocat. Mark, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
Hey, thanks so much. Glad to be here.
Well, Mark, it's been far too long, and I saw the calendar. I thought you were coming tomorrow, but it's always great when the guest is prompt. That's like Vince Lombardi time, right, Mark?
Yeah, we try. It's been a little bit busy. We've got a number of hearings still this week because this is my appropriation season. So I watch it pretty close, but glad to be here today.
Well, it's good to hear you're still working, Congressman, because my impression is the Biden legislative agenda is somewhat stalled, sir. Mark, will anything else pass between now and the midterms of any import or significance, to move the needle for the American people?
I mean, technically, we are supposed to have the budget done by September 30th. I'm not sure if that's happened since I've been here in Congress, but there's always the hope we try to get the bills done. That's why my season now to the end of July is pretty busy. But the Senate seems to have a little different calendar, even though it's still the September 30th deadline. But we'll get other things done. I mean, there's a major bill to help us get more things produced in the United States that are essential, from healthcare to computer chips. That there's a bill passed out of both houses. They're in conference committee, but that will, I'm quite sure, get signed into law and be major legislation. We just passed the postal reform bill guaranteeing 6-day delivery for people. Didn't get much notice, but it's one of the things that people contact us about the most. You want to make sure they've got their postal delivery service. So, we've been doing things. We'll still get some things done, but it definitely slows down the closer you get to November.
Well, Mark, I hope the inflation rate slowed down a bit. And obviously, it's been an issue that they're clubbing Joe Biden with. They're going to club the Democratic Party. It's a midterm election year. Mark, not a lot the president can do to impact oil prices relative to the fact that it strikes me, sir, that the oil companies are using the excuse of inflation to do some gouging. Mark, is there a legislative remedy? I've heard windfall profits taxes, but of course, I don't think there's, at least not the senatorial support to get anything of that sort through.
And that's the point. There's not a realistic legislative remedy, because I doubt Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema and probably some others would allow that to happen. But there absolutely are some remedies, which is, one, the White House could bring an oil executive in front of the public and flog him, even if it's verbally, because we have recordings of oil executives saying that instead of increasing oil production, that they've been maximizing shareholder returns, right? So we know that they've been ripping us off in doing this, and therefore the president, who has the biggest bully pulpit, should go after them far more aggressively. I mean, we still give corporate subsidies to oil companies with record profits, and I don't see Congress stopping that, because, again, some members in some districts, that's who employs people and are their voters. So it's always hard to really go after an industry that's clearly, taking advantage of consumers and probably has too many monopoly advantages that we should be going after. But I think, the best way to do it is have the president go after them through his agencies, go after them publicly. But we really do need the president to do that.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Congressman Mark Pocan joining us on the phone. Mark, always a pleasure to speak with you. And I understand the Republicans' position. I mean, no one wants to pay a lot of money for gas. My wife texted me today. She paid $80 to fill up the tank. She hardly drives. So we're all feeling that particular pain. But it strikes me as a little ironic that, the free market capitalist Republican types are jumping on, Joe Biden and the Democrats for quote unquote inflation, when, what exactly would a president do? Do they want to get involved even more so in the free market capitalism? Isn't this what they want, Mark?
I mean, this is pure hypocrisy, right? I mean, is Joe Biden responsible for the European Union inflation, for inflation in other countries who all are experiencing it as we're opening out of COVID? I mean, it really, you can say that and you're kind of done with the whole argument they have. But, people are upset when they're spending more on gas and on meat and other things in the grocery store. And that's what they're feeling. And that absolutely has a big influence on perhaps how they're going to vote. But the good news is, one of my colleagues said he did a focus group, and he's in a swing district. And when he asked voters about inflation, they knew it was companies that were largely price gouging and taking advantage of things because they're having record profits. So the good news is, again, people are probably way smarter than politicians, certainly Republican politicians. And because of that, we're in a better place. It's still a tough conversation. People have a COVID hangover. And inflation is absolutely part of that hangover. But, now I think with things like Roe versus Wade, we saw that move into first place with the economy, because people don't want to lose their personal freedoms about making decisions about their bodies. And, certainly we know that risk with the Republicans.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Our fine guest, Mark Pocan, my congressman, Wisconsin's second CD. Well, Mark, you alluded to the Roe v. Wade. We've seen the sneak preview, if you will, the leaked decision that would overturn Roe v. Wade. And it's obviously not just precedent shattering, it's very partisan and it's going to be very unpopular. But Mark, is it a galvanizing issue? Will it do more than engage the activist base that was already going to vote on the right or the left anyway, sir? Does it engage the middle, Mark?
Yeah, I'll say the fact that it tied with the economy for the number one issue. And when you look at where the polling falls on this, I mean, people are pro-choice and people want to be able to make decisions about their own bodies. And since the majority of the population is female, I think it's going to have a big factor in the elections. Also, I got calls immediately from people saying, what about marriage equality? It was mentioned in that leaked memo. They're afraid they're going to lose the marriage that they have. Birth control is even at risk when you start going down the arguments that they put forward. And I think there's a very small number of people who think that birth control shouldn't be out there. So when you look at where they will go and where they will grab, I think that is going to really make people realize that despite, being upset about inflation and probably realizing that it's not any one president or any elected official's reason why we have inflation, they are going to know that it is up to certain politicians who are going after things like your ability to make decisions about your body.
Mark, your congressional colleague, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson said, well, if this rolls back, abortion's going to be a little messy, but people will still be able to drive down to Illinois and get them. But right here in the great state of Wisconsin, Mark, if the Roe v. Wade is overturned, we revert back to the law in the book, which is an 1849 law to my memory, with no exceptions for rape, incest, or the health of the mother, if I recall. Well, I look at the Republicans running for governor, Mark, and I look at the gerrymandered legislative advantages for the Republicans in this state. There's not going to be any legislative will to change state law to codify Roe v. Wade. So, Mark, if this doesn't come down from a federal level, effectively, abortion is going to be illegal in the state of Wisconsin, and your best hope is to catch the Greyhound to Illinois, according to Ron Johnson.
Yeah, again, one more reason why Ron Johnson is completely out of touch with reality. I thought when they had the Republican convention this weekend in Dane County, bringing Ron Johnson to Dane County would be like bringing me to Pluto. It doesn't have a lot to do with where the values are. And this guy's an extremist in every single area. The bottom line is, if we go back to 1849 law, that's law pre the end of slavery. That's the year the first telegram was received in Wisconsin. I think we used to tax vehicles that were pulled by one horse 6.5 cents, and if you had two horses, 10 cents in 1849. That's not a law we should have in 2022. And the fact that that would be the preferred position of most, I believe, if not all, of the Republican candidates for governor, as well as the Republican gerrymandered legislature, that tells you that is the end result if Roe versus Wade gets turned over in Wisconsin.
Congressman Mark Pocan, other states are jumping on this. Oklahoma apparently passed a bill that would ban abortions from the stage of fertilization. I mean, 2 cells meeting. And this is not about, the baby feeling pain or fingers or things like that. And my impression, Mark, is this is ultimately purely a religious movement by the right. Do you agree with that assessment? And if so, how do you counter that?
Religious and political. Right? I mean, they know this moves a part of the base. So this is the position they've taken. Yes, it comes from that base, but it's also something that they opportunistically use because they don't care enough about women to actually stand up for them. So, yes, it will motivate a portion of their base, but I think far more people, including independents and many Republicans. I had a Republican tell me literally as I flew in that they were going to vote for Tony Evers, even though they're a Republican, because they know he has the ability to veto these bad laws. And I don't think, while they're all trying to appeal to Donald Trump and the most extreme elements of their base in these primaries, they realize that they're turning off a lot of other voters with really extremist rhetoric like they're giving.
Mark Polkad, let me ask you, the January 6th committee is about to roll out some public hearings. And I realize you don't sit on the J6 committee, but Mark, you've got to be at least an interested bystander. Do you think they can make the case to the American people? It's going to be January 9th, and I believe the 13th, the 15th, the 16th, the 21st, and the 23rd, Mark, something like that. The American people, do you think they will, A, pay attention, and B, do you think they're already entrenched in their beliefs? Either you believe Ron Johnson, they're just casual tourists that run amok at the U.S. Capitol, or you believe, like I do, that this was an insurrection against the vice president, against democracy, and against the the nonviolent turnover of power in our nation. Mark, do you think the American people will be convinced?
Yeah, I think that there are some people who will never listen to reason on this because, again, where they get their news and what they want to believe, it sits with their belief system. But for many, many people, when they see all the information and hear from the witnesses and hear things that none of us, including myself, has heard. I was talking to Jamie Raskin a little yesterday, and he knows it's going to be a very, very busy June with this happening. I've got to feel you're going to move people to realize that, what Donald Trump and his allies in Congress and the administration did was really nothing short of an attempted coup. And, do you really want these people in power, not only taking away your ability to make a decision about your body via Roe versus Wade, but being able to literally try to overthrow government if they don't get their way and they won't stand by the will of voters? I think for many people, that's going to be a huge turnoff.
Well, Mark, right here in the great state of Wisconsin, the GOP had a convention down the road in Middleton this weekend, and 40% of their electors said, let's overturn the last election. Mark, we've got GOP gubernatorial candidates like Rantham. Their entire candidacy is predicated on the big lie. Now, Mark, obviously, I think this is a big issue, but how do we move beyond this issue where we can get back to kitchen table issues if we can't preserve democracy?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is the Republicans, at the convention, there may have been a shortage of baby formula, but there was no shortage of Kool-Aid drinking, right? There's a lot of people who believe these crazy conspiracy theories, and they voted that way, and they booed Robin Vos off the stage because he said a fact, which was, there's nothing I can do to legally overturn the election, and they don't want to hear that. But again, that's a very small segment of the overall population. We just have to continue to be reasonable enough to say, no, you should be able to make decisions about your body. The economy, we have unemployment at almost a record low. A lot of things are going the right direction despite coming out of COVID. And while we do have inflation, do you want this crowd back in charge? Or do you want to make sure that, you actually have some of those freedoms that you deserve to have as a citizen? I think that argument ultimately is going to be strong for us. But, there's also a lot of gerrymandering at the congressional races. We just saw some maps change in New York and in Rhode Island. And, it's going to be a tough November no matter what.
Well, Mark Polkan, it's going to be a fun summer and a big primary coming up here in August. Hope to see you, sir, at the Democratic Party convention in our old stomping grounds in La Crosse later in June.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm looking forward to it, and we will see you up there.
Well, Congressman, thanks for coming around. Been far too long. Mark Polkan, our friend. Thank you, Mark. We'll catch up real soon.
Yep.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, guys.
More Devils. We'll be right back.
COVID-19 vaccines are starting to become available across the country. Now is the time to get informed. Get the latest information at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. A message brought to you by the Ad Council and the CDC.
Taking them on their first real roller coaster.
Okay, buddy, come on over.
I don't know.
Let's measure.
Okay.
You're just tall enough.
Yes!
Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
the Devil's Advocates.
Mitch McConnell did make a public statement, right? After he voted to acquit, nothing says the president can't be prosecuted. Set the example for your caucus.
Convince your caucus as to why the man is not fit to serve. How do you not use your leadership? Say, you guys, this is crazy. We can't do this, and here is exactly why. Because now of the two major political parties, one of them is under the thumb of a fascist insurrectionist.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstad at the Monaco Brewing Company, and I am proud to introduce you to Choice, our new pink grapefruit flavored hard seltzer. Choice was made in collaboration with Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, and 5% of the proceeds from every can goes to support them and their fight for reproductive freedom. Choice hard seltzer tastes great and comes in at only 105 calories per can. Go to our website, MonacoBrewingCompany.com, to find where you can buy Choice hard seltzer.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but the show is kind of a big deal.
We are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines always open for our fair audience, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, my congressman, our friend Mark Pocan. You know, he was 24 hours earlier than expected, but I think that's all on me. I suspect his staff probably got it right, and Crudy may have, looked at the calendar wrong. I'm prone to do that on rare occasion.
Always love it when Mark comes around.
Amongst the 37% of the time where I get it wrong every time.
That's one of those times. It's got to happen once in a while.
So sorry to confuse the audience. If you'd set an alarm for tomorrow's big show, no need. We'll have other big guests, or me and Dom and you on the phones at 844-967-2789. I can't tell you about tomorrow's big show. We're not done with this one yet. But Dom, I wanted to lead back a little closer to home. Bob Spindell, the false Trump elector, he is apparently running for chair of the Wisconsin Elections Commission. This is troubling news as far as I'm concerned. Molly back at the Journal Sentinel reporting. One of the 10 Wisconsin Republicans who in 2020 posed as a presidential elector for Donald Trump, that'd be a fraudulent Trump elector, even though Joe Biden won the state's presidential election, is now running to lead the state's elections agency. Now, what could possibly go wrong? Robert Spindell, one of the 3 Republican members of the Wisconsin Elections Commission, is running for chairman of the panel after submitting false paperwork to Congress and the National Archives. Now, I would find that disqualifying, but what do I know? Claiming to be an elector for Trump and touring the state falsely, claiming the 2020 election was rigged.
That makes him perfect for Republicans.
Rigged, but legal. He's trying to have it both ways, Tom. It was rigged, but legal. Here's a quote from wannabe Chairman Spindell. I'm definitely, positively, absolutely running for chair of the commission. I think I'm by far the most qualified, the most knowledgeable, and would have the most support from the Republican electorate, Spindell said in an interview. Now, the commission is evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans, with a member of each party taking turns being chairman or chairwoman for a 2-year term. Ann Jacobs, the Democratic attorney from Milwaukee, is currently leading the panel. I thought she did very ably, Dom.
I think she did as well.
Don't tell that to, a couple of people down in Racine County. The next leader will lead the commission through the November election and much of the 2024 presidential election cycle, a year eyed as a referendum by Wisconsin Republicans on the state's election system that many in the party deemed to have failed in 2020. They deem it to have failed.
Crudy, among their duties, the chair of the commission certifies election results, a historically benign task now under scrutiny, as large swaths of the GOP believe the 2020 election results should never have been certified. Now, let's just ask ourselves a question here and pause for a moment. What if Bob Spindell, as evidenced by his fraudulent elector signing his fraudulent documents. How do you think he would have reacted had he been the head of this commission?
Well, throw it out and start over again.
Of course,
let the will of the voters be done.
You cannot.
And if that doesn't work, let's do it again and see if Trump wins this time.
The guy's a fraud. I mean, you don't want a fraud at the head of the Wisconsin Election Commission. You don't. Not a Republican, not a Democrat, not a Libertarian, not a communist. You don't want frauds. He is a fraud. I mean, that's what he did. He's proud of it.
Well, Dom, for Spindell not to be the elections chair, it's going to take an actively heroic Dean Knudsen.
Dean Knudsen, who served as chairman between 2018 and 2020, could run against Spindell for the position. To be elected, Spindell or Knudsen must receive at least one vote from a Democratic member of the commission during the body's meeting on Wednesday. In a separate recent interview, Spindell said he didn't know how much support he could get.
None.
He acknowledged
none. Pardon me.
He acknowledged he may have trouble getting a Democratic vote, which he would need to get a majority. Quote, I would think that maybe they would not like me to be chair, he said of the Democrats.
Yes, I would maybe not like him to be chair either, Dom. Although I don't call myself one of the Democrats.
He said he thought he would do a good job at promoting the commission and showing the public the good it does at a time when Republicans who control the legislature are skeptical of the agency. For the commission itself, I think I'm the best one to be able to do what's necessary to make sure the election commission is entirely transparent. We don't get into a situation where it looks like funny stuff is being done. I mean, funny stuff. So, I mean, the fair question would be, sir, what would you have done at the last election? Funny stuff?
Well, he already reversed this one vote on how to deal with the nursing homes, right? It was a 6-0 vote, and the entire elections commission said, well, it's a pandemic going on. You can't follow the normal state procedure. You got to allow these people to vote absentee, maybe with the assistance of nursing home people. And then Spindell decided to flip his vote, and the other 5 commissioners, including the 2 Republicans ever since, have been on the hit list. People want him out. They want him in jail. I mean, I think the special prosecutor, has been salivating like Pavlov's dog with the thought that he could throw Mark Thompson in jail. And of course, chill good people from ever considering serving on an elections commission, leaving just the Bob Spindells of the world with the willingness to carry the
absolute reason why we cannot possibly let them do that. Spindell said Democrats typically have let Republicans decide who will be their chairperson, and the Republicans have done the same for Democrats. He said the Democrats should face difficulties if they don't abide by that informal policy. Oh, tradition. Listen to the traditionalists.
Tell that to Merrick Garland, or perhaps those that voted for Amy Coney Barrett, or
those that voted for President Biden,
or Fred Preen over on the DNR board. The guy that won't vacate, that guy.
He goes on to say, I'm not sure that they would want to change the precedent that you allow the other party to make the decision in terms of who the chairman is going to be. And I think it should be up to the party in charge to do it. And I would suspect that the Democrats on the commission would honor that, because they'll come back up for chairmanship in 2 years. Jacobs and Mark Thompson, another Democrat on the commission, declined to say if they would vote for Spindell.
I can answer for
Mark.
Mark.
Did not immediately respond.
And Chairwoman Jacobs, they're not going to vote for Bob Spindell.
Hell no. Absolutely not.
I think Dean Knudsen's going to have to run, right? I mean, Dean, do the right thing. Because they would probably all the Democrats would vote for Knudsen. He's already been the chair. He was moderate. He reasonably administered elections as they were tasked to do. I don't think that's what Bob Spindell has got in mind, Dom. He wants to pick the right kind of winner.
Sued. He's getting sued as we speak personally for this action.
You got a problem with that?
Well, I'm just saying, you don't want a fraudulent, defendant in charge of the Wisconsin Election Commission.
Well, Donald Trump's too busy golfing in Mar-a-Lago to hold the position. Come back, more Devil's Advocates. All your favorite positions. From missionary to 69.
Oh, jeez.
Come back with us. 844-967-2789.
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone. Ahoy! You see?
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
The greatest radio show ever could be your greatest advertising investment ever. Partner with the Devil's Advocates and activate our loyal, educated, and engaged audience today. In-show interviews and sponsored special events considered across Wisconsin. Affordable digital and terrestrial ads available in Chicago and Minneapolis and directly on the Devil Radio app. Make a deal with the Devils and get the Devil's Advocates bump to your bottom line. Call or text 844-967-2789 today.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Devil Radio 92.7, WTTN 1580 AM, and the Devil Radio app.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News, I'm Tim McGuire. Police say an 18-year-old resident of Uvalde, Texas, walked into Robb Elementary School in the town some 85 miles west of San Antonio and opened fire with a handgun and possibly a rifle. 14 students are known dead, along with a teacher. An unknown number of people have been injured. Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy has felt the pain of children being killed in their classrooms for nearly 10 years since Sandy Hook, December 2012. He took to the floor to ask fellow senators,
what are we doing? Why are you here? If not to solve a problem as existential as this.
Today's shooting comes less than 2 weeks after an 18-year-old white man shot and killed 10 black shoppers and workers in a Buffalo grocery store. That suspect is in custody. The White House says President Biden has been briefed on the shooting and will deliver remarks this evening. The president is on his way back to Washington after urging fellow leaders in Asia to help stop Russia's continued attack on Ukraine.
The president says they're navigating a dark hour in our shared history.
This is more than just a European issue. It's a global issue.
In a summit with Australia, India, and Japan, the president's message seemed at least partly aimed at New Delhi, which, unlike nearly every other U.S. ally, has not sanctioned Russia or even condemned it. In a separate meeting, Prime Minister Narendra Modi touted U.S.-Indian relations but did not publicly mention the Ukraine war. The president did.
The U.S. and India are going to continue consulting closely on how to mitigate these negative effects.
But in a sign of India's relationship with Moscow, a post-summit statement from the four nations made no mention of Russia. Sagar Magani, Washington.
This is AP News.
Look, it's heartburn. It's going to try and ruin our vacation.
Don't worry. I packed Prilosec OTC. One pill in the morning prevents excess acid production that can cause frequent heartburn.
Nice. Aloha, heartburn.
Block heartburn from your summer bucket list with Prilosec OTC. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
Don't wait until you have heartburn to start Prilosec OTC. Kick your summer off right and look for Prilosec OTC at Walmart or walmart.com.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to get conversational in another language in as little as 3 weeks? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Babbel, language for life, celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
You know what? I'll tell you something. There's nothing better than a hot sausage, a couple, 2 or 3 cold beers, and Devil Radio on a box.
When we built the Devil Radio World Headquarters in Madison, it was filthy with construction dust, a real mess. I called Magnific Cleaning Services and they made it shine. A few days later, we moved in and created a whole new mess. Magnific Cleaning Services made it shine again. Now Magnific Cleaning Services is the only cleaners I trust with the keys to my company. They clean Devil Radio affordably and with great attention to detail. Find them online at magnificservice.com for a free estimate. Tell them Devil Radio sent you.
Oh, that really hits the spot.
So we get to put away the Senator Sanders impersonation for a little while.
I'm not saying that he's gone for good, but stopping out here at the Atomic Koi in Fitchburg is really helping the Plastered for Progress agenda.
Yeah, the Koi is a great spot. It's got great vibes, and the patio is perfect for spring.
I'm staying here.
They do have operating hours, Brian.
Time has no meaning here. That's what makes the Koi atomic.
Does that mean that it's always patio season at the Atomic Koi?
Even if the patio's closed.
Suck down drinks so we don't have to suck.
Okay.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Here's how you get them. If they bring a beer, you bring an old-fashioned. If they bring cheese curds, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way. That's Devil Radio.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. The Wisconsin Elections Commission will be meeting on Wednesday evening to vote on which commissioner will be chairing the commission that oversees elections in Wisconsin for this fall's elections and the elections in 2024. On Monday, Robert Spindell, one of the 10 fraudulent Republican electors in 2020, announced he is running to become the chairman of the commission. Spindell has been one of the loudest proponents that the 2020 election was rigged, despite multiple audits, recounts, and court cases, resulting in no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Wisconsin law requires the chair of the commission to alternate between Republicans and Democrats on the commission, and Democratic appointee Ann Jacobs' term as chair is coming to an end this summer. Forecasts show mostly cloudy skies with winds up to 20 miles per hour and an expected high of 67 degrees. There's a 50% chance for occasional rain showers into the evening with an overnight low of 53 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, rolling into the primary Tuesday happy hour. Dom's here, Fancy Brian's here, Evan's here, screening your calls, sort of, lightly, at 844-967-2789. But if you're waiting in the queue, be patient, because Dom's going to update us on the breaking news.
All right, here we go. Again, ABC13.com, 14 students killed, one teacher dead in elementary school shooting, the Texas governor said. The suspect identified as 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, a student at the high school. We have some new quotes here from Abbott, the governor of Texas. When parents drop their kids off at school, they have every expectation to know that they're going to be able to pick their child up when that school day ends. And there are families who are in mourning right now. The state of Texas is in mourning with them for the reality that these parents are not going to be able to pick up their children. ABC 13 reports that 2 responding police officers were also among those injured. Abbott says they are expected to survive, he said. And so obviously, here we go again, another mass shooting, another shooting in an elementary school. Welcome to America. But the reaction immediately, right? What do we do? What's the solution? Apparently, the president will address this as he returns from Asia tonight. But the Washington Post is also reporting that in an interview with conservative channel Newsmax, the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, suggested that the solution to school shootings is arming the teachers. So thoughts and prayers, arm the teachers, and let's, move on to the next mass shooting.
Well, Dominic, if you're trying to put this tragedy behind you and you happen to be in Texas this weekend, may I suggest go see the former president speaking to the NRA's annual meeting.
Oh, that's a great idea. Good timing.
See and hear from Trump this Friday, May 27th, 2 p.m. in Houston, Texas. So he is the guest of honor, the sixth time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times that Donald Trump has spoken to the NRA. And why would he not come and address them? I mean, back in 2016, if you believe the FEC complaint, well, he was the beneficiary of $36 million of Russian money funneled through the NRA. I wonder if former governor of the state of Wisconsin, Scotty Wanker, he was also a big grandiose recipient. $4.5 million, got an A+ rating from the NRA. Because before they proposed, let's arm the teachers in Texas, well, they were proposing that here in the state of Wisconsin.
It's really an honor to work with the NRA, not only in my state, but across the country.
Let's not forget, it's not just Trump. A little bit more. The group says the NRA is the group referenced. The exhibit hall will showcase over 14 acres of the latest guns and gears from the most popular companies in the industry. The killing industry, the maiming industry, the gun manufacturing industry. And I mean, how else would you celebrate the fallen? The veterans. The Memorial Day is to celebrate those that have died in war zones, like elementary schools in Texas. A little bit more from the NRA. They're very excited. Big event this weekend. Trump's coming
in Texas
to Houston this Friday. Mass shooting in Texas today, Tuesday. So it'll be like 3 days. Lots of quiet reflection, thoughts, and prayers, and let's have a shoot 'em up.
Well, I mean, I can understand why would they continue want to do this, because when people get scared, you got to go out and buy a gun, right? I mean, if you're scared, buy a gun. If you're really scared, buy two.
Dominic, from entertainment to special events, it's all happening in Houston or Memorial Day weekend. Make plans now to join fellow Second Amendment patriots for a freedom-filled weekend for the entire family as we celebrate freedom, firearms, and the Second Amendment. That the newest from the NRA and their chairman and CEO, Wayne LaPierre.
I mean, the guy's like pilfering money off. I mean, the guy's buying suit. How is this organization, number one, still around? And number two, how could anybody in that organization want a guy like LaPierre who's been taking money out of that joint for his own purposes?
Well, Letitia James is actually fighting their bankruptcy filing, the filing of the NRA. They were formerly organized in the state of New York, and then the Attorney General of the state of New York went after them, right? Like she went after the Trump org, went after them civilly, and is going after their bankruptcy filing because they effectively went to Texas, not out of insolvency, but to shield their actions through the bankruptcy. Because they wanted to reorganize in a gun-friendlier state, Dom.
The NRA does care.
Yeah, it cares a lot that you show up at their big event this weekend in Houston. 14 acres of guns and mayhem.
Sunday.
And Trump on Friday. Yeah.
Ooh.
Musical guests, Lee Greenwood and Don McLean. Proud to be an American, and bye-bye, Miss American Pie.
NBCnews.com. Wayne LaPierre used the NRA as a personal piggy bank. A New York Attorney General says trips to the Bahamas, private jets, and luxury hotel suites. Some of the ways the CEO and other executives are alleged to have used the nonprofit's money. I mean, what good is nonprofit money if you don't spend the nonprofit money?
Well, if you can't do a little self-dealing at the benefit of yourself from the nonprofit, well, what kind of friend of Donald Trump's would you be? 844-967-2789. Go to the phones. Appreciate your patience. Mary Wauwatosa. Welcome, Mary. What do you got for us?
Hi, Mary.
I'd just like to, share potential shared responsibility for these atrocities in our society. I read a book by about the story of Florence Nightingale, and one of the quotes from the book said, despite her anger, she refrained from blaming even the worst offenders, insisting that the system which placed them where they were is the point to be considered. It seems that she had, the idea that part of the blame belongs in our society.
Well, of course, part of the blame does belong to our society, Mary, but, the right would tell us lock everyone up. If we locked up more criminals, and of course, this kid's got to be mentally ill, because how else would you ever arrive at the conclusion to go kill elementary age children, right? Because that, of course, takes all the pressure off the gun industry and the NRA, because they got a big convention this weekend down in Houston.
Well, as I said, shared responsibility. And if you look at social media, what kind of messages are our young people getting? It's worth a look and worth action.
Mary,
Thank you.
Appreciate you listening. Fancy Brian, you had a thought?
I have an elementary school kid, and I just want to point out that the only group of people who have changed their behavior in any significant way whatsoever since shootings became a thing have been children. My daughter's been doing active shooter drills since she was in kindergarten. They're the only group of people who have done anything significant to change their behavior, and that's because we all told them to. Yeah, I think Mary's right. Society is to blame here.
Freaking terrible. 844-967-2789. Our pal Mark, you're up. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Oh, sweet Jesus. It just is depressing to hear this kind of thing. And the reaction from the NRA is going to be the same. But, I get the NRA Hunter magazine, and it's over 50% of it is articles on how bad the Democrats are and how gun rights are under assault, and give more money to the NRA rather than what it used to be is just, more or less just articles on hunting. And that it is just disgusting that this kind of thing happens, and we know what the reaction is going to be. I'm surprised Alex Jones hasn't always come out and said it's crisis actors. This is just something to embarrass the NRA because they're going to have their convention down in Texas, because there's, I hate to even give them ideas. I mean, George Carlin number 1 through 6 is all I can say right now, because the 7th one is no biggie as far as I'm concerned. That it is just ridiculous, that the Republicans are going to give the same crap on this. That why did this kid have access to firearms, and that what good would it do be arming the teachers? Because the first, he took out a teacher too, didn't he?
He did,
yes, and apparently injured some police officers as well.
It just that, and you can buy body armor now. I mean one of the Sportsman's Guide catalog, you can get plates to put in backpacks. I mean backpacks, so kids can't get shot in the back.
Well, and Mark, the murderer in New York had body armor on. And when Buffalo, the security,
you got to distinguish, because there was another shooter in New York today, subway shooter.
I'm sorry, the racist replacement theory shooter who killed all those beautiful elderly black people because they were black and he didn't want them around. He wore body armor, and they had armed security at the grocery store, and that former police officer shot at the perpetrator, and because of the body armor he was wearing, the bullet didn't stop him, and then he himself was then shot.
Well, isn't that always, sorry to interrupt, Tom, isn't that always the narrative though? If only there's a good guy with a gun on the scene. But understand their definition, and the security guard, well, he had a gun, he tried to stop the perpetrator and he was murdered, but they embrace the Kyle Rittenhouse, the vigilante, the, let's go stop the George Floyd, the Jacob Blake protesters in Kenosha, right? He was lifted up and embraced.
Hell, he's at Mar-a-Lago with all the big-breasted women. He's having a ball right now. He's on tour. He is a celebrity.
Wonder if Lee Greenwood will open up the show, or maybe Don McClain. Come back. More Devil's Advocates. Going to miss the big convention, the NRA convention in Houston. But Trump won't. I heard this song sung in San Antonio once. I bet they won't be singing this one at funerals.
The NRA does care.
Make sure you remember in your thoughts and more importantly in your prayers. Shut up, you little weasel.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Cardinal put out these weird, sad videos interviewing incapacitated elders in their nursing homes that don't have the ability to say, don't use me as your political prop.
If they are what you say they are, then you shouldn't be doing it how you did it.
Yes, it was the kids using the parents as props. Well, my old man hasn't talked since 76. Of course, he would have voted for Trump. That's the evidence. Videos. People that can't talk.
It is wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
Be able to go back to the movies.
Introduce my family to my new girlfriend.
For my husband, who's been a chronic asthmatic his whole life.
So I can visit friends in a different state.
So I can take my granddaughter out to the park again.
So that I can hug my 85-year-old grandma again.
We each have our own reason for why we're getting vaccinated against COVID-19. What will yours be? Visit getvaccineanswers.org for information on the COVID-19 vaccines. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. Your take today, 844-967-2789.
Going to the phones. Andy from Beaver Dam. How you doing, Andy?
Hey, Andy.
Well, this is really disheartening. What kind of an infrastructure would it take to spot these potential shooters? You'd have to really get it in at the ground floor with their mental state.
Well, we don't know a lot about the shooter in Texas outside San Antonio, but we know the Buffalo shooter made a point. I mean, the guy, the kid apparently wrote a manifesto and hid it all from his parents. But I've also seen photographs, which purportedly are real, of the family, mom, dad, and the kids all at the shooting range together. Now, I was taught how to shoot a gun by my mom, now deceased. I don't think it's, I think it is a skill that can be passed from parent to child. I was taught that skill by a parent. But at the end of the day, Andy, I think in retrospect, you can certainly look and say, well, something was glamorized about guns in that family, apparently. And the guy was certainly radicalized by his own claims on 4chan, online. Didn't learn it from my family or my teachers. I learned this online.
No. And he looked like he was from a sort of an upper middle class family. He wasn't, from the pictures that I saw, their home and the parents were cooperating with.
Well, I didn't see a trailer in the background, but I can't speak to their social class, Andy.
Right. It was, but getting back, I've been out of high school for 57 years, and the local high school, which was built back in the late 50s, was totally revamped about
4 or 5 years ago. I think it was finished in 18. And I always wanted to get up there, but I had all these health problems and I never got there, but I wanted to see. But supposedly, can you imagine sending, which you guys have kids, sending kids to school and you've got a situation, a security situation where all the other doors are locked. You can't just walk into a school. And then you've got a security entrance on the one side of the building that you have to get cleared before you can even get in the place. You know what I mean? I can't
Andy,
imagine.
we had at my kid's school this year, Middleton High School, my two sons both attend. There was at least a suspected active gun on campus circumstance. And the cops were called and they did a lockdown at the school. And my son described, who was in the cafeteria, said it was like watching kids in Mission Impossible throwing their backpacks and sliding out under the gate, because who in the hell wants to get locked in a lockdown? If there's an active shooter, they're locking all the doors effectively, but you're locked in a cage in the cafeteria.
Oh man, I just don't. It would be tough to be a kid nowadays. You know, and
it's got to be, man, between the pandemic and I can't imagine how these kids are not affected. I worry about my kids, Andy. I worry that, you know, this is all going to be cumulatively too much.
Thanks for the call, Andy. Always appreciate it. 844-967-2789. We will take more of your calls. Also from the Washington Post, FBI report, active shooter attacks last year were double pre-pandemic numbers. In the report, the FBI defines an active shooter, active attack, as one in which a person or people tried to kill others in a populated area. They did not include cases, it said, were due to factors such as gang violence or contained residential or domestic disputes. There were 61 such attacks last year, including rampages that killed 10 people in Boulder, Colorado, a grocery store, 8 people at 3 Atlanta area spas, and 4 people in Oxford, Michigan. Now we can add this one to the list. The number was up from 40 the year before and double the 30 such incidents seen in both 2018 and 2019, the 2 years before the pandemic. Most of the attacks were not mass killings, which is federally defined as one with at least 3 victims. The FBI said 103 people were killed and 140 wounded in the 61 incidents it tracked last year, a toll that did not include any of the shooters. I mean, so the price of Second Amendment patriotism is apparently 103 people and 140 wounded in 61 incidences last year.
But Dom, I think to Andy's point, it's more than that, because you know what you lose is you lose innocence. How am I supposed to tell my freaking kids who have brains and watch the news and have access to social media, oh, go be a good student tomorrow, go be safe at school, don't worry about it? You know, how do you send your kid back to school if you don't feel safe for them? Because it's so random. You don't know whose kid or what school is going to be the next school. But you know, when these guns are readily available, and I'm not saying it's all about the guns, but the guns certainly make it easier to, you know, spread mass carnage. And the fact that it's always thoughts and prayers. It's never, you know what? Let's draw this line at least and stop the ones we can. Make it tougher. You know, do criminal background checks. Let's not let all these straw purchase guns on the street for crime or otherwise.
Well, it doesn't matter if you do private sales, and if an 18-year-old kid can engage in a private arms sale, and it doesn't have to be checked, doesn't have to be, you know, logged in or anything, or concerned about the person's background. It's all kind of moot anyway, isn't it?
Well, we just need more Kyle Rittenhouses out there on that wall. You know, 17-year-olds with a gun. You know, but the right kind of 17-year-olds, white and, you know, vigilante, but self-defense. That makes a great defense, especially when you got a fundraiser to the tune of millions. Come back with us. You know, money buys a great defense. More Devil's Advocates. Your phone calls could be next. 844-967-2789.
I'm going to be your sheriff. You're going to be my deputy trainees.
Freedom.
Cut through the bullshit. Get the information the deep state doesn't want you to know. Only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Hey, Jimmy, it's Rocker. Meet me at the new Dark Horse Art Bar in East Wash. Happy hour is Tuesday through Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. You pick the day. 2-for-1 rail drinks and slices of Sal's tomato pies for $1. Jimmy, it's happy hour at the Dark Horse Art Bar. 756 East Washington in Madison, across from the Sylvie.
Madison's newest happy hour, craft cocktail, local art and music. Find out more at the new Dark Horse Art Bar and Gallery. Online at darkhorsemadison.com.
Hi, I'm a pleasant voice reminding you to enable Devil Radio before playing Devil Radio. First, you have to enable Devil Radio, which should be natural to Wisconsinites. Just say, Alexa, enable Devil Radio. Then firmly and confidently say, Alexa, play Devil Radio. This should conjure the Devil Radio app, available at the App Store.
Another school shooting. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says 14 children and a teacher are dead in a shooting inside Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, 85 miles west of San Antonio. The 18-year-old gunman is also dead, likely shot by police. It's the deadliest grade school shooting in the U.S. since Sandy Hook in Connecticut nearly 10 years ago. Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy took to the floor to ask his fellow senators why they won't take action.
Nowhere else do little kids go to school thinking that they might be shot that day. Nowhere else do parents have to talk to their kids, as I have had to do, about why they got locked into a bathroom and told to be quiet for 5 minutes just in case a bad man entered that building. Nowhere else does that happen except here in the United States of America, and it is a choice. It is our choice to let it continue.
It's not known how many other people have been injured and what their conditions might be. I'm Tim McGuire.
Look, it's heartburn. It's going to try and ruin our vacation.
Don't worry. I packed Prilosec OTC. One pill in the morning prevents excess acid production that can cause frequent heartburn.
Nice. Aloha, heartburn.
Block heartburn from your summer bucket list with Prilosec OTC. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
Don't wait until you have heartburn to start Prilosec OTC. Kick your summer off right and look for Prilosec OTC at Walmart or walmart.com.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to get conversational in another language in as little as 3 weeks? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Babbel, language for life, celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
From Up North News, I'm Pat Kreitlow with headlines and commentary from our daily newsletter and social media posts. The odds are not in his favor, but one of the fake Trump electors from 2020 is running to be the next chair of the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Robert Spindell is one of the 3 Republican commission members. The parties take turns every 2 years. And he wants the gavel when Democrat Ann Jacobs has to turn it over to a Republican member on Wednesday. The chair sets the agenda for what does and doesn't get considered. As you can see, with a 3-3 split, at least one Democratic member would have to support Spindell, but it's far more likely they'd support former state rep Dean Knudsen, who's already served before as commission chair. Spindell has traveled the state making a presentation on how he says the 2020 election was rigged. Spoiler alert, it was not. Also, why the election for Wisconsin Secretary of State is getting national attention. That and more at upnorthnewswi.com.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about, The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Tuesday edition, the happy hour. A little restrained by the news out of Texas, a school shooting. 18-year-old is apparently the shooter. He's now dead at the hands of police. 14 students apparently also dead, and a teacher. And this is still breaking news. And We've got some immediate reaction from differing sources. I'd like to share a little bit with you, our fair audience. First and foremost, the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, through Chairman Jamie Harrison, issued the following statement. One of the hardest things to do as a parent is drop your kids off at a school, knowing you won't be there to protect them. Everyday worries, whether they will scrape their knee at recess or if they will have to deal with a bully, these things are stressful enough for parents. My heart and mind cannot fathom the pain, fear, grief, and anger these families must be experiencing now. School is supposed to be a place of learning and fun with friends, a place where every kid can feel comfortable, where every parent can send their children and know they will come home safe and sound. We cannot continue to live this way. We can and should offer prayers tonight, but we have to be justified by works, not by faith alone. We owe our children and our teachers more than thoughts and prayers. We owe them action. One more I want to share with you, Dominic, and you can react here at 844-967-2789. The reaction from my children's school. They've sent an email out from the school district. My kids go in Middleton. They tell us, families, as we learn the horrific school shooting incident that occurred in Texas today, we want to let you know that we have been in contact with our law enforcement partners and have requested extra patrols and vigilance around our schools. Keeping our students and staff safe and secure remains our number one priority. And when situations like the one today in Texas arise, we are reminded of the important role that we all play in keeping our schools safe. Our hearts go out to those impacted by this gut-wrenching tragedy. If you or your child need support or someone to speak with, please reach out to a student services team member at your child's school. And it came from the administrator in Middleton. 844-967-2789. CJ, I think you've been waiting longest. Welcome back. What do you got?
Hey there, gentlemen. Well, it is a sad story. But I actually called about a different issue and been on hold till this news broke. But I do believe in the Second Amendment, and most crime has been committed by illegal gun owners, and even a car, as we've seen in Waukesha, can be a weapon.
But we regulate use of cars and we license and insure use of cars because they're dangerous. When you drive a car, you take great responsibility, but we don't hold gun owners to that same level of responsibility, at least not in terms of legal culpability and insurance and proven competence. CJ, when I was in the military, they didn't just give you a gun. They taught you how to use it, and then you had to prove you knew how to use it, right?
There you go. Legal gun owners usually go and have training. So the mere fact that
I don't know if I would agree with that. What makes you think people actually go and get training? I mean, going out and firing off, 100 or 1,000 rounds, you can get used to the weapon, but that's a far cry from formal training. But let me ask you, let's just stay on this. Hang on, CJ, if I may. I want to, because we're talking about kids in elementary school, right? Second, third, and fourth graders. That means they're 7, 8, and 9 years old. Are we just supposed to just say, okay, I mean, that sucks. That's the price of Second Amendment patriotism.
No, but
okay, then if no is then what then? Then what, CJ?
Maybe if that teacher was concealed carry trained, because there are a bunch of nut jobs out there that are waiting to do.
And the teacher, what? Under the circumstance, an untrained teacher, presumably, I mean, unless she's or he is at the range every night, they're not trained professionals. They've never been put in a live fire circumstance before. So you would hope that the good teacher with the gun would pop a couple of rounds in the bad guy's ass. But there's also a lot of students in the school. CJ, I don't want my kids' teachers armed under any circumstance.
Legally trained.
Not the
If they would have
teachers.
saved your kid, I bet you would.
No, CJ, because there's too much opportunity for accidental discharge. For my kid says the wrong thing at the wrong time. Somebody puts a cap in their ass just because they were a smart ass, and Crudies have a history of being smart asses, if you know what I'm saying.
Thanks for the call, CJ. I'm not clear arming the teachers. This is a bigger problem. I mean, that doesn't solve the problem, in my opinion. 844-967-2789. What does solve the problem? Dick from Madison, you're next. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dick.
Well, guys, thoughts and prayers. But first of all, Abbott in Texas, he was advocating the fact that, we're falling behind California in gun purchasing. And let's get out there and buy more guns. And secondly, to CJ, when it comes to Texas, they passed a law recently. You don't have to have any training. He just said he believes in training, and I agree, if you're going to have any weapon, that you don't even have to have that. All you have to be is 18 years or older, and you can buy a gun. Isn't that nice? But Abbott, to sit there now and go, parents have the reasonable expectation for their children to come home safe after the type of nonsense that he's been espousing all these years. And one last thing on the Georgia situation with Herschel Walker.
Yeah.
I'm some 5 or 6 years older than him. Now, I thought I played in the era of the leather helmet. Apparently, he played in the era of no helmets whatsoever. This guy is certifiably insane. And
he did win a Heisman Trophy, though. Him and Juice have that in common, Dick. 844.
So what?
967. You got a Heisman Trophy at home? I
don't. But so what? I mean, what does that have to? I mean, that's a sport, man. So the guy's good at a sport. So what? That doesn't mean he's qualified to represent an entire state.
Fair enough. What was Donald Trump's claim to fame? He wasn't even good at a sport. You know what I mean? All he had was the celebrity. So Herschel Walker,
yes,
has the celebrity garnered from being a Heisman Trophy winner, a virtual All-Pro, and, played for the worst team ever, the Cowboys, next to the Bears. No offense, Chicago. 844-967-2789. Let's get to a few more ranters and friends. Pizza Box, which one are you today?
Hey, Mike.
Wow, man. Nobody puts color in racism like CJ, huh? Those are illegal guns. You notice all guns are black. There aren't any white guns out there killing people. Like Rittenhouse, those legal guns. Guys from our party that we support, support that amendment, arm ourselves. Guy's a clown. CJ's one of those guys that would run. He'd be the first to run from a situation like that.
Well, you'd have to get out of my way because I'd be running first.
I got to be honest. I think I'd run in there
race.
even if I didn't have a weapon.
I'm less courageous.
I'd like to think that I'd run away, but you know what? If I saw little kids being shot at, I don't think I'd run away. I don't think I'd run away. I mean, who wants to be in that situation? Why are we putting teachers and kids in this situation, America? No other country like ours. God bless America. And CJ, I got to go, man, because I'm really pissed about this.
Yeah, thanks for the call, man. As just for a point of clarity, also from the Washington Post, they state that Texas is one of the only states that permits districts to arm teachers, although it's not clear how many districts have taken advantage of the provision. So you can arm teachers in Texas.
I said a couple of things, especially to Mr. Marty, my 8th grade social studies teacher. And if he happens to be listening right now and he were armed, he might take a pot shot at me all these years later, because I said a few things under my breath. Mr. Marty asked me to repeat myself.
No, man. I mean, it's just,
and I didn't have the good sense to lie and make up a new version. I repeated the expletive in loud, clear tones, less than FCC.
A little Breakfast Club action, was it?
Oh yeah, got a 3-day suspension out of that.
That's with the bull, you get the horns, son.
844 967-27. You are sort of like the Judd Hirsch character. Or is that Judd Nelson?
My shorts.
Yeah, Judd Nelson.
Judd Hirsch was Taxi, right?
That's true.
That's what you remind me of, Vance Bryan. Judd Hirsch. Taxi.
A young Judd Hirsch. All right.
Evan's more like Mary Lou Henner. 844.
She's got an eidetic memory.
I know that. 844, as does one of my sons. 844-967-2789. LA Tom, how you doing?
Hey, Tom.
Well, guys, first off, we the people ultimately are the government. And I'm a proud FDR Democrat. And I hope more Democrats actually speak out because of policies, 1 in 4 elections. CJ, you're an idiot, plain and simple. I think we just need to come out and say, stop with the wordsmithing of gun control and just say we need to ban any weapons of war. We need to ban any assault weapons. We just need to ban them. And then if you want to talk about going out and shooting a deer or something like that, fine, gun safety. That's what we need. We need gun safety for the regular type of guns, and we need banning of these weapons of war. I mean, this is just getting just crazy.
Tom, here in Dane County, where I reside, and it's been a long time since I looked at any hunting regulations, but if memory serves, you could only hunt deer with a shotgun. That was the only permissible firearm, at least many years ago.
I'll tell you, if you're using an AR-15, you're a piss poor shot. That's for sure.
Well, you're not going to have much venison either.
No, you're not.
Any other thoughts, Tom?
But you know what, though? Republicans get a twofer on this one. They get public education ruined because nobody wants to go to the schools, including the teachers. And they get their quote-unquote Second Amendment rights, which I guess they think is anything that can blow up the world is called the Second Amendment nowadays. They get both those things, I guess, because I'll tell you what, I would not be a teacher and go into a school if my life depended on it, which it would.
Do you think that being self-armed, and I don't speak for myself because, the only weapons I've ever had were either hunting weapons or were assigned by the military. But Tom, do you think if you got a gun under your armpit, if you're concealed carry, do you think that gives you a false sense of security? Like, well, I don't care about the rest, but I'm going to be okay.
I know one thing. With the way my mind works, I don't want a gun. I don't want a gun ever. Oh, my God. And I think more people need to think about this. Really and truly, do you want to have something that's just there to kill someone? You have a lot of power in your hands with something that can kill someone. And I just think that just the idea of people having guns is really, I don't know, it seems self-destructive to me because a lot of weird thoughts can go through your head, whether you're on some type of, medication for ADHD or you're on other types of medications. There's a thin line between insanity and sanity. And
I hear what you're saying, Tom, but then the other side of that is, it's the great equalizer, man. The Colt 45, a little guy like me, a big guy like Brian back in the day, I'm going to lose that battle every single time. So there is a sense of self-defense, certainly. But when you go and kill 14 school-age children, that is obviously not self-defense. We're the Devil's Advocates. We're coming right back. Last segment, your calls, 844-967-2789.
Introducing TP, the Thoughts and Prayers app.
Awesome. How does it work?
Just download it to your phone. Then once a tragic event occurs somewhere in the world, TP will post thoughts and prayers on your behalf for all of your friends and family to see.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hey guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just,
Only you can prevent wildfires.
like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Douglas LaFollette, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
Good to be here, Mike. Across the country, in most every state, the Secretary of State is the person who is in charge of the election. And we've seen lots of hanky-panky in Florida back during the Al Gore elections, in Ohio and Georgia and Arizona and Michigan.
We appreciate you coming around, sir.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstead of the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I'm excited to announce our new beer, AOC IPA. This IPA pays homage to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a champion of the progressive movement. AOC IPA is now available in stores throughout Wisconsin. Check our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to see which stores in your area are carrying it.
Look through your children's eyes, and you will discover the true magic of a forest.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, join us on the phones, 844-967-2789. I had lots of things I wanted to talk about today, like Trump, endorsing a civil war or Purdue's racist comments, the Manhattan DA telling the judge to proceed with the Weisselberg prosecution. Of course, Rojo getting millions of dollars, all sorts of things to discuss. But since this is
Rojo's
America,
got a sugar daddy, Dick Uline's? Man,
this is America, baby.
Around.
So today is our mass shooting show. And you know how much I love the mass shooting shows. 14 dead, 7, 8, 9-year-olds and a teacher and counting. 844-967-2789. Let's get to the phones. David from Mequon, you are next. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Good evening, guys. What's frustrating for me with this is twofold. One, I've always made the argument, listen, we sent $54 billion to Ukraine to defend against Russian military for the last 3 months. Why we do not, spend money on security for schools is beyond me, because we've been at this now for decades. And I understand, people want to ban guns, but that's a genie out of the bottle. Yes, we could certainly ban certain assault rifles, but most killings are done by, let's be honest, handguns.
Let's take you up on your word, David. Let's just ban the assault rifles just in case. How about that? And I won't leave it to Nancy Pelosi to write that legislation. We'll bring experts in. It can be about muzzle velocity. It can be about the metrics that actually matter. What makes it a militaristic weapon? Not because it's got a muzzle flash suppressor, but because it is a militaristic weapon that, delivers death at a very rapid pace.
The specifications of the weapons to address that and the limits that are allowed, that we think should be allowed in a civil society.
Dave, what about regulations on guns, or simple background checks? Let's try background checks.
I'm not against background check at all. I'm for safety. One of my friends is a Delta pilot. He actually is allowed to carry a gun on the plane, and he does. They make him practice, continually to make sure that he's, adequate as far as if there was something that happened on the plane, that he would be able to do what he has to do. And that might freak people out, but the reality is, you go to the airport, you got a boatload of security. You go to the Packer Stadium, boatload of security. You go to any baseball game, you see a boatload of Milwaukee police officers inside and outside the stadium. I'm saying that, yes, I would be for, again, to reflecting, because we did ban bump stocks for a while. And we had the whole thing with Brady and Reagan when he got
and
shot
that
way back
worked.
when.
But David, look at the outcomes. That worked. When the Brady assault weapons ban went through, we saw a great reduction in firearms murders. David, if we know it works empirically, if we know there is a solution, why don't we have the will? Not just us liberal whatevers. But why is the country? Why can't we find enough reasonable common ground that we can do what we can do, Dave?
Yeah,
can't solve them all, but let's do what we can do.
Right. But it's twofold. I will say this: you will have other people. When you have Beto O'Rourke, he wanted to ban everything, and when you start saying that, then that's when your message is not going to get through. And it's
well, let's see if he wins the governor's race in Texas. Maybe his message is sinking in a little bit today around the San Antonio area.
He's never going to win. He's never going to win. He's a loser.
But Greg Abbott can shut down the border, shut down international trade, and he's your guy. That's your horse.
I'll put it to you this way, but again, that's a fundamental thing that we have to do. You got to protect the border. You saw that there was a guy who came over across the border illegally that was trying to kill President Bush. It just came out today. And
the guy was ISIS associated.
Fundamental thing that you got to do. I'm sorry.
The guy was apparently, and I've only read some reporting on that event, David. The guy that apparently was targeting Bush or had driven around the ranch or something was ISIS associated, was an Iraqi. But David, that's a lot of skirting around the gun issue, man.
Well, and let me just be clear. You talked about O'Rourke, and I want to be factual on this. According to the NPR, he said, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. Now, when we talk about banning quote unquote assault rifles, David, you seemed open to the concept. Well, what O'Rourke was talking about were AR-15s and AK-47s specifically. So I'm not clear that he is actually out of line with what you may have been suggesting you might be open to discuss.
Yeah, but they conflate any sort of gun regulation with taking away the Second Amendment, your freedom. It's just an overconflation.
Well, you can't have a nuclear bomb. You can't have a grenade launcher, right? So there's already restrictions. It's just a matter of degree. You already accepted the restriction.
Well, yeah,
now, I get it. You don't want everyone to be a single shot, muzzle loaded, rifle from, the Civil War era.
You think it's going to get better? The Civil War is now the Supreme Court is now with 6-3. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna wrench back any other sensible gun regulations. This court is going to be a real problem. Annie from Watertown. Welcome back, Annie. What do you got?
Hi, Annie.
Well, we've allowed this to happen somehow. I in my lifetime, the discussion was whether or not to allow people to have handguns. Cop killer bullets were not allowed. Now they are. All these things have become a part of our society. That they were talking about a slippery slope. Oh, we can't let this restriction happen, or they won't let us, have this. Well, it sort of went the opposite, where the slippery slope has gone to being awash with guns. Where guns are worship. When CJ said, "I believe in the Second Amendment," I thought that's kind of worshiping thing where our society can't survive worshiping guns and putting guns above life, which apparently we've done. I mean, it interferes with every part of our society. I don't know. This is really getting to the point where, we're going to have to do something like take away somebody's gun, take away a whole bunch of guns, or just be resigned to this is the way it's going to be. Like Don said, we're busy with this while they get away with everything else.
Random death at school. I hope we don't ever get used to that, Annie. Appreciate you listening. Thank you to my congressman, Mark Pocan. He's a friend of ours. come around more often, Congressman. See you in La Crosse someday soon at the Democratic Party convention. I'll broadcast up there that week. Dom, I guess I won't make notice of the fact that Mark Pocan's appearing on the big show tomorrow. He was a welcome surprise just a little bit early.
Absolutely.
He's on
Always
Lombardi
welcome
time.
anytime.
Well, you're all welcome guests when we talk on the radio each and every day. Thanks for sticking around for a little bit. Thank you, Fancy. Thank you, Dom. Thank you, Evan. Thank you all. Have a great night.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I'm Peter Pekarski, a U.S. Senate candidate